What's going on, guys? PlotArmorCards in the house, and today I'm going to be coming to you with my Eldlich the Golden Lord deck profile. Now, this version of Eldlich the Golden Lord is a pure variation, so I'm going to be mostly using the trap cards and everything within the archetype. However, this is in my opinion, I would say it's pretty competitive. And it does come with a hint of degeneracy. So as we get into it, you will see what that is. But of course, if you like what you see, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. And please also let me know how the new intro is. I was up until like 3 in the morning last night trying to work on it. But I really do like what I got. And I'll be working on a new outro soon. But just if you could let me know if you like it or not, it'd be much appreciated. So let's just go ahead and get into it, guys. So first of all, I like to run 3 copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord. Now, this card obviously is the boss monster of the archetype. This card's effective. You can send this card and 1 spell or trap from your hand to the graveyard, then target 1 card on the field, send it to the graveyard. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 spell or trap you control to the graveyard and add this card to your hand. Then you can special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand, and if you do, until the end of your opponent's turn, it gains 1,000 attack and defense. It cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can only use each effect of Eldlich the Golden Lord once per turn. Now, I really like, just in my opinion, usually I go for the cheaper versions just because I'm usually working on a budget and I like to build a lot of different decks. But gold rare, it just seemed to be the best in this situation because it is the Golden Lord, right? So next, I would definitely recommend running 2 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Now, I don't have that, but just because I don't have that, I'm just running 7 Cities of the Golden Lord instead. This is definitely something that I don't think most people run, so definitely I would recommend getting Lord of the Heavenly Prison instead. Next are these spell cards. So I like to run 3 copies of Cursed Eldland. Now, Cursed Eldland is a really, really good card for this deck. Its effect is you cannot declare attacks except with zombie monsters, which almost is never a problem for us. You can use each of the following effects of Cursed Eldland once per turn. You can pay 800 life points, add 1 Eldlich monster or 1 golden land spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That works really, really well because you can essentially search almost any card in this deck. There are so many different cards that they can be searched. Secondly, if this card is sent from the spell or trap zone to the graveyard, you can send 1 Eldlich monster or 1 golden land spell or trap from your deck to the grave. Works but really well. It doubles as both a being able to add an Eldlich plus or a spell or trap or a Foolish Burial / Foolish Burial Goods. So this card is really, really good. Moving forward, I like to use 1 copy of Elixir of White Destiny and 1 copy of Elixir of Black Awakening. Now, they both have similar effects. White Destiny is a quick effect, and this one is not. They have slight variations. So, White Destiny's effect is you can special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand or graveyard, but if you control no Eldlich monster, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, set 1 golden land spell or trap directly from your deck. You can only use 1 Elixir of White Destiny effect per turn and only once that turn. And secondly, we have Elixir of Black Awakening. Its effect is you can special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters. You can banish this card from your graveyard, set 1 golden land. So basically the differences here is this summons from hand or grave, while this summons from hand or deck. And they're both useful in various situations, and I definitely think that at least in my experience playing this deck, that each of these has been useful to me in one way or another. So that's why I like to run 1 and 1 at least. And then a little bit of degeneracy, guys. I like to play 1 copy of Mystic Mind. This is a great card just to have your opponent do absolutely nothing, slow down the duel completely, because sometimes it'll be like you only have 1 Eldlich on the field, or sometimes there'll be situations where maybe you don't have something on the field, you just have like a bunch of traps, right? The traps eventually will turn into monsters as you use their effects and whatnot, but this is, I think, is very necessary just for shutting down your opponent's plays from time to time. Now, the one thing I would say, though, is I run this at 1, so sometimes you want to see it, but you won't. How I experiment with these is I run it at 1, and then if I like it at 1, I'll bump it up to 2, and then if I like it at 2, I'll bump it up to 3. So I'll be bumping it up to 2 in the next couple weeks just to check out how it is, you know. But I think 1 or 2 would probably be the best in this situation. Moving forward, I also like to run 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Now, this is a necessary card in this deck. At the start of your main phase 1, banish 3 or 6 random face-down cards from your extra deck face down. Draw 1 card for every 3 cards banished. For the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot draw cards by card effects. So you really, really need to be able to draw in this deck. Trust me, The way this deck works sometimes is it'll sometimes be super fast, sometimes be super slow, and you need the ability to be able to draw as much as possible. I think it does help out this deck really, really well. Plus, you can take advantage of Pot of Extravagance, because while there are some cards that work really, really well in the extra deck, most of the time you don't really care for the extra deck. Moving forward to the trap cards. So I like to play 3 copies of Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. This card is also really, really dope. You can special summon 1 zombie monster from your deck or graveyard. So, in our situation, it's going to be our boss monster. If you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters. You can banish this card from your graveyard, set 1 golden land, spell, or trap directly from your deck. You can only use 1 Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine once per turn, and only once that turn. This card is just a great card for searching in general, and I think it's pretty necessary for this deck. However, I have seen builds that actually cut it down. Sometimes I've seen builds that use none. Some I've seen builds that use like 3. I've seen builds that use 1 or 2. It just depends on your preferences, I would say. Next, I like to run a playset of Conquistador of the Golden Land. Now, this is super dope. Its effect is you can special summon this card as a normal monster. Zombie Light, level 5, with 500 attack and 1800 defense. This card is also still a trap. Then, if you control Eldlich, the Golden Lord, you can destroy 1 face-up card on the field. During the end phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, set 1 Elixir spell or trap directly from the deck. So, it works so well both in the grave and on the field. It is a must-have. Next, we are running Hakiro. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. My apologies. Hakiro of the Golden Land. This card is also really dope. Special summon this card as a normal monster. Zombie Light, level 5, 1800 attack, 1500 defense. This card is also still a trap. Then, if you control Eldlich, the Golden Lord, you can banish 1 card from either graveyard. During the end phase, you can banish this card from a graveyard to set a spell or trap. So, this card is great, and this card is great. 1 banishes, 1 destroys. It just works really, really well to get rid of certain cards that your opponent might have. Next, I like to play 2 copies of Skill Drain and 1 copy of Anti-Spell Fragrance. Now, if I had 3 copies of Skill Drain, for sure I would be playing 3 copies of Skill Drain. But for now, I am improvising, okay, and I'm playing 2 copies of Skill Drain and 1 Anti-Spell Fragrance. I guess you can argue that this is some more degeneracy just because I don't have the money for the card right now. But hopefully in the coming weeks, I will be able to play 3. This, obviously, pay 1,000 life points, negate the effects of all effect monsters on the field. And then if you're interested in Anti-Spell Fragrance as well, both players must set spell cards before activating them and cannot activate them until their next turn. It works really, really well, honestly. It's not even that bad in this deck, honestly. This card works really, really well just to shut down, because other than monsters, most of the cards that you'll see are spell cards. So it does have the ability to just shut down your opponent's turns. Next, I like to play 3 copies of Gozen Match. Now, Gozen Match is also a really, really good card and kind of degenerate when played with the next card. Each player can only control 1 attribute of monster. Send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. Okay, not only can they only control 1 attribute, but I also like to play 3 copies of Rivalry of the Warlords. So if they're playing that, each player must send monsters from his side of the field to the graveyards, so long as that he or she only controls 1 type of monster. As long as this card remains face up on the field, each player can only summon or control 1 type of monster. So not only are they locked into 1 attribute, but if you play both of them at the same time, they can get locked into 1 type. That is insane, and it works so great. All right, moving forward. I like to play 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Now, Solemn Strike is a really, really good card overall. It's just a great negate. When a monsters would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, you can pay 1,500 life points to negate the summon or activation if you do destroy that card. So, on top of that, I like to play Solemn Judgment. So, I have 1 copy of Solemn Judgment and 2 copies of Solemn Warning. So, I like to play... If it was up to me, if I had 3 Solemn Judgments, I'd be playing 3 Solemn Judgments. However, I'm just making do with what I got right now, so I play 2 Solemn Warnings and 1 Solemn Judgment. Overall, Solemn Judgment's effect is when a monster would be summoned or a spell/trap card is activated, pay half your life points to negate the summon or activation, and if you destroy that card. It does come at a bit of a cost. However, this card has potential to just alter what your opponent can do, and it has the ability to just alter their turn overall. And Solemn Warning, if you're interested, if a monster should be summoned, or a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster, pay 2,000 life points to negate the summon or activation if you destroy it. So I guess I would say my budget option is still a pretty useful card in this deck overall. And then lastly, for the trap cards, I like to play 2 copies of Toriento Tribute. So when a monster is summoned, destroy all monsters on the field. This has insane potential to just screw over everything your opponent does. Plus, your boss monster, Eldlich the Golden Lord, has potential to just keep bringing itself back. So it doesn't damage you that much, but your opponent, it does kind of screw over. So that was it for the main deck, guys. So moving forward for the extra deck. So first of all, since I'm running 7 cities of the Golden Lord, I'm running 2 copies of Eldlich the Mad Golden Lord. Now, you don't really have to run this. Again, if you have what we were talking about earlier, the monster in place of this, you can obviously switch this out for almost any generic link, like maybe IP Masquerena or something like that. But since I'm running that in this situation, I just thought, why not try it out? I know it's not used that often in most meta decks or in most decks that you'll see in tournaments or whatnot. However, it's just, I think it's a dope archetype, dope boss monster, and I definitely do like trying out new things. So that's why I'm trying that out. Next, I like to run 2 copies of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. It takes 2 level 10 monsters. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card and inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. So this card works really, really well with your 2 Eldliches. I know we're running 3, but if you got 2, you can go into this. And then on top of that, you can summon Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Libe. Hopefully I'm pronouncing these things right. But I also run 2 of these. And so once per turn, you can also Xyz summon this card by using 1 rank 10 machine Xyz monster you control as material. And so that's where this thing comes in. Transfer materials to this card. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card. It gains 2,000 attack and defense. Also, for the rest of this turn, you can only declare an attack with this card. During each battle phase, it can make attacks on monsters up to the number of materials it has plus 1. So it has this and this have insane OTK potential, which is why I like to run them. I'm running them at 2 each just because, you know, we are running the Pot of Extravagance. So kind of want to be careful. You don't want to lose them. Next, I like to run 2 copies of Constellar Pleiades. It just takes 2 level 5 light monsters. You can make them with your 2 trap cards. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can detach an Xyz material from this card, then target 1 card on the field, return that target to the hand. So it's a decent ability just to bounce certain cards off your opponent's field. Next, I like to run 2 copies of Link Spider. If I'm not mistaken, I believe most of them, most of the trap cards are summoned as normal monsters, so then you can go into Link Spider. It allows you, once per turn, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower normal monster from your hand to the zone this card points to. So it's definitely something to consider. Next, I like to play 2 copies of Vampire Sucker. Now, I am a little bit iffy on this one. It takes 2 zombie monsters, so it's very easy to summon. If you were to tribute monsters for tribute summon, you can tribute summon monsters your opponent controls, even though you do not control them. Very rarely will you tribute summon, just saying. You can only use each of the following effects of Vampire Sucker once per turn. You can target 1 monster your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's field in defense position, but it becomes a zombie monster. If a zombie monster is special summoned from either graveyard, draw 1 card. This is the effect that I really, really like, because it allows you to essentially draw, which is great. Next, we got 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Now, these cards I don't really care as much about. Not going to summon them as much, in my opinion. You are going to summon mostly the earlier Link monsters that I showed, the earlier Xyz monsters, and then I'm trying to consistently get out Eldlich some Mad Golden Lord, which it does happen from time to time, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, it depends on what type of cards you draw. But overall, I think it's pretty good. For the 15th card, you'll notice I'm only running 14. You can essentially run whatever. I would recommend IP Masquerena. It's just really good with links in general. It's up to you in total, though, what you want to run. I just want to leave a little bit of transparency and flexibility with the extra deck, just because you are going to be running, as I said before, you're going to be running Pot of Extravagance. So what you run, essentially, you kind of have to be very careful with. And overall, this archetype doesn't really utilize the extra deck. So it gives you space for some, and it also it takes some of that space away because of Pot of Extravagance. So that's just something that you might want to consider. But overall, guys, I think this is a really, really cool deck. I tried to make it a little bit degenerate, as you saw before. Mystic Mine in general, I think, has been doing really, really good. I'm trying to utilize it as best as I possibly can, just because I feel like it's going to get banned in the future. So I just want to make full use of it now while I can. And anyways, guys, this is PlotArmorCards signing out for the day. If you like what you see, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh my goodness, look at the time.
It's time to do